Well, here we are again, back in the basement. Raining, cold, windy again today, and I think as long as it stays that way outside, I'm just going to keep on making videos. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, a little bit about this guy, my UMX Crescendo, because I had a question about UMX airplanes in general and how to change a setting on one. That won't take but a minute or two. And then I had a request to redo my video on how to set up AS3X safe and no gyros. And to do that, I built a test lab table here, a rig that has a motor, some servos, a receiver, and a GPS on it. Power it up. And these are all parts off of wrecked airplanes, so I didn't go out and buy any of this for this purpose. I thought it all was part of other airplanes, and these are parts I pulled out of wrecks, unfortunately, but that's life in the RC world. So first off, I want to discuss a question that came up a couple of days ago about how to set a different switch from the one that comes preset for safe on these UMX models. Now, I've looked at the manual for every UMX model that is currently for sale on the Horizon site, and they're all the same. Now, I happen to have the Crescendo, and that's the only one I have at the moment. That could change. But what I'm going to show you applies to every other model that's in the current Horizon line. It doesn't necessarily apply to models that are now no longer in production, but it'll work for any of the ones that you bought recently. So let's take the camera around here, put it on the transmitter, power up this little guy, and we'll talk about that. Okay? Okay, I moved the tripod around, put it on the camera, and the airplane is just right behind there. There it is. It's powered up. And let's see, motor's off. Yep. So now we're going to talk about how to change this setting. The safe by default on these UMX airplanes is set to the gear channel 5. It's very easy to customize that by changing the switch you want to use to turn safe on and off. So to do that, all we have to do is go to System Setup, go down to Channel Assign right here, and change channel 5 to whatever switch you want to use. Its default is A. Every other model I have uses B, and most of those models have forward programming, and the B switch is set for in the up position, which it currently is. That's no gyros. In the middle position for AS3X, and the down position for safe. Well, it turns out that with these UMX models, you don't have forward programming, and you cannot turn AS3X off. Or if you can, drop me a comment and tell me how to do it, because I sure can't figure it out. So right now, the model is no power on it because we are in the system setup. But let's go back, hit the back button, channel assign off, go back here. Now, the model just powered back up, and it is in safe mode, and the battery's not charged because it's been in storage for a while. But now the model right now is in safe mode. I'm going to turn the volume up. A little more.
Volume 95.
Okay, so I'm going to flip on the middle position.
AS3X mode. AS3X mode.
That's the top position. Go down.
Thermal mode A.
And I call it thermal mode. So Let's go up here and check. And yes, you can see those ailerons moving, elevators moving. It's all working. We go to
11.5 volts, 0 amps, 73 Fahrenheit.
And by the way, you do have telemetry with these, all of these UMX models. You can get battery voltage, which is about the only thing I use it for. I don't think they don't come with an altimeter or variometer. But anyway, now I just put it in AS3X mode, and AS3X should be shaking those gyros, but it's not. To get that to work, we're going to have to turn the motor on and power it up. Very briefly. Now you can hear those gyros working. That's AS3X, which is probably one of the reasons why this model has a reputation for being extremely fast and extremely stable, because you can't turn that AS3X off, and it seems to be set up really well, because this tiny little airplane just bores through the wind. Okay, so while we're here, let's take a look at our telemetry options. I'm going to go down here to telemetry. Notice forward programming is here, but you try to connect up. It's on the menu, but it's not going to work. So let's go back up to telemetry. Oops, where are you? Oh, you're back up here. There is telemetry. Now what we have battery, G-force, gyroscope, and Smart ESC is the one you want to use. So we'll go to Smart ESC. You can set your low voltage alarm. It's currently 3.4. That is the default. You can set a temperature alarm, 199 Fahrenheit. And that is currently, both of those are off. And down here you can set your status report, and I've got it set for once a minute I get a battery voltage that's announced. If I have the volume turned up, I can hear it. Okay, this is a multi-step process to do this, and I'm going to take you through all of the steps. The first thing we need to do in this process is to set up a switch and a channel and a port for changing the flight mode. To do that is a several step process. I'm going to start here, test bed in the default position after startup. We're going to need to go down here to system setup. Yes. First thing we're going to do is set up the flight mode. Now there are 3 potential flight modes you can set up on my UMX 8. And I'm only going to use one, and it's going to be switch 1, switch B. Switch right back here, right behind the throttle. Okay, switch B. Back out of that. And then we're going to go to, wait a minute, channel assign. That way, there we go. There's channel assign, and I'm going to set AUX2 to B. Now remember AUX2, because we're going to need that here in just a second. I can set this to any switch I want to, but I wanted a 3-way switch. And this one back here on the top of the transmitter is pretty handy, so we're going to set that to B now. I'm going to go back to the home page and go to forward programming. Gyro settings, Flight mode setup, not safe settings, that sets limits. Flight mode setup. Okay, this is now activated by my switch on AUX 2. So, okay, you can change those sounds, by the way. I haven't done it on this model. You can change those. Flight mode 1 can be safe. You can change flight mode 2 to AS3X by assigning that prompt, and then that's manual mode on all my other models. Okay, so let's start with flight mode 3, which is gyros off. Flight mode channel, that's inhibited. AS3X is inhibited. Safe mode is inhibited. Everything is inhibited. Now, if I go to inhibited or active, and I've chosen active, that turns on AS3X, but only after you power up the motor. Now, in safe mode, AS3X is still active, and safe is set to self-level angle. We can change that too. We can inhibit it, self-level angle, an envelope. I have no idea what that other one is, but okay, self-level angle, that's where you want it. Panic is off. So here again, here are my 3 flight modes. Flight mode 3, flight mode 2, and flight mode 1. And that's all you need to do. It's assigned to switch B, as we've already done that. And go back here, other settings. Let's see, we can initiate bind mode, we can do a factory reset, we can play with failsafe. If we go to system setup, this can be really important, by the way, incredibly critical if you are changing other things. Like, let's say that my AR637T that I have over here came out of another model. Well, I'm going to need to do 2 things. Change the orientation, set the model level, continue. It's level right now. Set the model on its nose. And I'm going to take my test bed and raise it to vertical and continue. Oops. Line. Continue. Orientation 1, that is correct. Continue and save settings, and the receiver is going to reboot. It's also important to note here that you are programming this receiver. If you take this receiver out and put it in another model, it's going to retain these settings unless you change them. And that's why it's so important to, whenever you make a change in a receiver, to go back and reprogram it, because it doesn't matter how you have, for these settings at least, how you have the transmitter programmed. It's the receiver that's programmed. And unless you change it, it's going to stay there. If you want to change, for example, your B switch settings, you can go here and change those. You can make one, let's see, I think it's position 0 is, let's see here, 0 is safe, 1 is AS3X, and position 2 is manual mode, or gyros off, which is what it really is. Okay, so let's see if it worked. Go back to the home page. Here we are back on test bed. I'm going to bring in the test bed here. First of all, I'm going to check the controls and make sure, yes, that's the ailerons. That's A is ailerons, F is flaps, E is elevator, and R is rudder. And they're moving in safe. Okay. So I'm going to pick up the receiver, which I have Velcroed, and I'm going to, there we go. That's what it's supposed to do. And that is moving the elevator servo. And I presume that's in the correct direction. And since it's not in a model and I can't actually observe the surfaces, if it was actually in a model, I would be looking at the ailerons and elevator to make sure they were moving in the proper direction, but they should be because I just changed the orientation as if the front of the airplane was here, where the motor is. Okay. Another thing that you need to know about Safe is that it definitely does limit your throws. Notice that that elevator is not moving very much. It's designed that way. So I'm going to put this back in here. I'm going to give full up elevator, and I'm going to switch to AS3X mode. See that elevator servo arm moving? Do the same thing with the ailerons. Notice how much more throw I have and more control. So if you're going to use Safe, you probably ought to manually set your elevator, especially with a significant amount of throw, by changing where that control rod goes into the elevator horn and on the servo to give it plenty of travel for taking off. You're going to take off in Safe, especially. I've had a few instances where I didn't do that, and I actually had a hard time getting the airplane to fly off of out of Safe. It had to be going pretty fast before it would actually leave the ground. I got that fixed now, thank goodness. So that is all there is to it in terms of setting up our Safe mode on our transmitter using forward programming. Now this receiver here, this AS637T, was already programmed. So what I showed you was how to get to those menus, but you're going to have to actually go change those settings yourself. Now, the first thing you need to do is pick a switch and then go through that channel assign and assigning the switch so that you can actually use that switch. And you can use any switch on here. Two-position switch will work, but it won't give you gyros off. You'll only be able to set, well, maybe, yeah, you could set. With a two-position switch, you could pick, for example, any two of those settings. You can pick, say, for example, Safe and gyros off, or AS3X and gyros off, or just AS3X and Safe, like the only choice I can make on my UMX Crescendo. But on a three-position switch, and there are several of them on here. Let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 three-position switches that I can use to set this up. On this model, this one is flaps. You can see the flap servo moving. This one doesn't do anything. This one's rates, but all my rates are set to 100%. I haven't changed them. This one doesn't do anything, and this one is throttle cut. So just to make sure, uh-oh, the throttle's not working. That's peculiar. Switch C. Well, I don't know if I can figure that out here real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, back. I figured it out. It just needed to have the transmitter back on the home page, and I've powered everything back up again. But there we go. There's throttle cut, or as I call it, motor on and motor off, because I think that makes a lot more sense than throttle cut on and throttle cut off. So there you go. If you have any questions, any concerns, let me know. Well, still got a cup of coffee left. Nice warm cup of coffee. It's 35 degrees outside, and we're supposed to get a light frost tonight. Hopefully the last one for a while, but our frost-free date here in central Indiana is not till almost Mother's Day, so I'm not holding out a lot of hope for that. But the weather forecast for next week is outstanding. Highs in the 60s and 70s, a few days without rain, acceptable winds. I think I'm actually going to get to go fly. Wow. It's been a long time, and I've got that new turbo timber over there, the SWS version, that's just begging to get flown. So thanks for watching. If you like this, think about hitting that like button, or if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button so that you can get a notice. If you don't like the subject, you don't have to watch it. Okay? So anyway, I'm not going to try to be a Brian Phillips or the Sailors and make money off of this, but I do appreciate your feedback, particularly the questions. I love answering questions. So have a great weekend, and thanks again. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate your attention and your devotion to RC flying. Take care. Goodbye.